Why you didn't tell me I was on, man? Welcome to Test, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. I knew it was on, man. Anyways, so I got Wesley So versus Dmitry Andreikin, and this is a Title Tuesday taken from October 31st, Halloween, well, in the United States anyway. But all my people in the Philippines, I will say Maraming Salamat. Anybody who is coming from Russia, I will say Bolshoye Spasiba. You guys are ready to go, man. Let's take a look, see what we got for this game, homie. So we got B3, best by test. We got, it's not best by test. It's just B3. Nimzovich Larson is what we call it. We got bishop to B2. We see the move G6. We got knight to F3. So we kind of got a little ready mixed in there. We do see bishop to G7. We got C4. So this is known as the English opening Anglo-Indian. So you see it has a whole lot of different hints in it from different openings. And it actually gets into something a little bit into like another opening in a little bit. But we'll get to that in a minute. I got castles by black. We see G3. We got C5. Bishop goes to G2. We see B6. And I mean, it looks a little dangerous, right? A little bit. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. This bishop is like really kind of a monster. So you got to cover that up quick. So we do see D4 and then we do see bishop to B7. And the crazy interesting thing about the position, it's something super rare. I don't think I've really seen it myself before. It's a double fianchetto for both sides. Like, look at this, bro. Look at this, man. Look at all these bishops right here. This is a very, very unique position. In all of my history of knowing chess, like I haven't really seen this before myself. So we got the move D5. And the thing about it is black cannot sit idle in this position. You know, white has this really gigantic pawn chain. If they can at all ever maybe either get a knight to C3 or knight B to D2 with the queen to C2 pushing E4, I mean, they're really going to have a really great center, and then E5 is going to come. You absolutely cannot allow this to happen. So like I said, black has to do something to make sure that you're not getting everything you dream of. We got the move E6, and this is kind of where it starts. We got castles by white. We got pawn takes D5, pawn takes D5, and then we actually see rook to E8. Now, you guys might be wondering. I mean, hold on a second, man. The knight and the bishop are hitting D5, and this bishop on B2 is undefended. Can I just take knight takes D5 or even bishop takes? Well, let's look at knight takes D5. Instead of rook to E8, let's say we do see knight taking D5. You would actually be seeing knight to E5. And this is a very common idea in like Catalans to go like knight to H4 or, you know, just to uncover the bishop on that long diagonal. And you guys see what I was talking about before as far as the bishop being undefended over here. This is a little bit dangerous. So you probably would see like queen to E8, but then after bishop takes, queen takes. I mean, this is just really, really sound for white. So we really don't really kind of too much want to get into that. So that is why we see rook going to E8. Very nice, sensible move. We do see rook to E1. For those of you who do play the Catalan as white, or sometimes you'll play like English, different types of English situations, you know, you guys do know that this E2 pawn is actually very, very weak, and it needs to be either pushed or defended. It's really hard to push it right now, like I said, because this knight is going to be able to just chop it off the board, and then a rook is on it and everything like that. So. But we do see the move D6. We got knight to C3. And this is the novelty of the game. It actually allows black to do something in this position. Yes, it actually allows black to do something in this position. And it's really kind of crazy because it is actually missed 2 separate times. In this position, after knight to C3, we actually see Andreikin go knight B to D7. I think he's like seeing ghosts. He is playing Wesley So, so sometimes when you play a certain person, you know, anything that you kind of, it looks like maybe they drop something or it's like, man, it looks like I can win some material. Sometimes it seems like it's too good to be true, like you're just walking into a trap. So that is literally what we see, I think, in this position right here. Instead of knight B to D7, you actually just completely have the move knight takes D5. And you really don't have a whole lot that you can do if you're white because... simply because, like I said, this bishop is undefended on B2. So you really can't just go ahead and just take here. That's pretty much what you're going to have to do, though, because, like, something's going to have to give. You have way too much pressure in your position. So the knight would take, you would see bishop taking. And, I mean, black just has an entire pawn, like, for nothing. You're going to have to move the rook. So, I mean, it's not quite ideal for you to just give away a pawn in this fashion. So I'm not sure if maybe Wesley So overlooked this fact or if he played this intentionally just to kind of be, like, a little dubious. But that is what we saw. After knight b came to d7, you actually see knight to d2. And you actually still do have knight takes d5 because of that pin I was talking to you guys about before. So, like I said, Andreikin must be looking at this and saying, hey, man, I think this is a trap, bro. Like, I think that there's, like, some type of trick in the position. And so some players can do that to you. I know Magnus does it to a lot of players. It looks like he might blunder, but you're like, man, I don't know if I should take it because I think I'm going to just lose. We got knight to g4. We got knight up to c4. And the thing I was talking about before, this has a lot of King's Indian and even Benoni types of positions in it where you are targeting this d6 pawn and you have like this little fianchetto situation going on over here. So those of you that play d4 and go into the Benoni, that these types of ideas, this structure should look very familiar to you. And also, I mean, winning this pawn now, you know, with knight takes d5, obviously you can't do it with the knight being way over here. So it's kind of like a fairy tale now. We do see knight d going to e5. We see knight taking, bishop taking, and then we do see the move queen to d2. And we have now finally, if we're white, gotten kind of everything, you know, that we need. You know, we do actually now have these pieces, for the most part, taken care of. You know, you had the bishop and the knight both holding this d5 pawn. So, I mean, everything is good to go. We do see the move f5, and then we do see h3. And black is hurting for space just a little bit. You know, this pawn is really kind of deep into black's territory. So, you know, we playing f5, you're trying to get like some space. So it's the King's Indian ideas that I was telling you guys about before. We do see knight going back to f6, and this actually traps the bishop, but you can capture on c3, which is what we actually see in the game. Bishop takes c3 and queen takes c3, and this mate threat is absolutely lethal. As you guys can see, if this knight just decides that it wants to just kind of like hang out somewhere else on the board and not cover g7, you're just plopping down into g7. So if you do something like this, obviously, queen to g7 is checkmate. So we didn't see that in the game. So don't worry that, you know, don't be like, did we see that? No, we didn't see that. But it is a mate threat, like I said. We do see king going to f7. We got the move e4. Pawn takes e4, bishop takes e4, and that mate threat is actually still on the board. It just looks a little different. If this knight moves at all, you would be going to queen to g7, and that is also checkmate. The king doesn't have anywhere to go after that, so this is pretty dangerous for black. So we do see the move b5. You absolutely have to get rid of this queen on c3. So, I mean, that's why we see this pawn like starting to advance, and we will see this queen getting kicked. We do see bishop to f3. We got b4, and then we do see queen going down to d2. And the crazy thing in this position right here is it's giving over a 2.5 to like 3-point advantage. So to try to explain to you guys, like, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure why the computer gives that great of an advantage for this position. But just to explain, you know, why white is clearly better. Number one, you have a much better bit, like you have double bishops in the position, like just double bishops against a knight and a bishop. So that's just superior. You also have a much superior bishop if you're just going to compare bishop to bishop. Black's strong bishop was that dark square bishop, and he allowed it to get trapped and had to trade it for a knight, which is absolutely not ideal. You have this bishop, which really isn't doing anything. You guys kind of see that it's kind of biting on a rock. So this is a much poorer bishop than this really monstrous bishop. And one of the ideas in the position is to either go f5 immediately or go g4 f5 and clear the way for the queen to go to h6. And that will be taking advantage of the king's position. And definitely this king is much less safe than this king. So that is my best effort to try to, you know, think about, you know, what the computer's thinking about and trying to give you guys a good assessment of, you know, why white is much stronger. But like I said, it's giving like more than a piece of an advantage And so that's like, you know, that's just like computer stuff right there. We do see the bishop going back to c8. We do see the move g4. And like I was saying, this definitely really looks like a Benoni. A lot of the times, especially like when I used to play the Benoni, you know, I used to play like the white side of the Benoni. You know, this h3, g4 idea was like very, very common. And you were putting a bishop right here, and you were putting a lot of pressure on this d6 pawn. So, you know, it kind of has hints of that type of stuff going on. We do see bishop to d7, rook takes, we got queen take, and then we got rook going to e1. Why not take over the entire file? Just because. We do see queen sidestepping over to f8, and then we do see the move f5. And in addition to what I said earlier, queen to g5 is actually an idea in this position. As you can see, this bishop and this queen would do very nicely against this knight. And we will actually be seeing an idea coming up that is also present in this position here. But we'll get to that in a minute. The rook goes over to e8, and this is the idea that I was telling you guys about a second ago. You guys saw this in the thumbnail. Rook to e6. This is like a Petrosian rook. If you guys never saw the Petrosian game when he literally put a rook in the center of the board and was like, I don't even care if you take it. It was like the immortal rook. It was crazy. You really don't want to take this rook, but you really don't have like a lot of better options in the position. It's either bishop takes or rook takes. You're glad to give up the exchange. You're going to have a complete clamp in the center. You're also going to be clearing the d5 square for a bishop or even a queen or something like that. So we actually do see bishop taking e6, pawn taking e6 with check. The king slides back to g8, and then we do see the move g5. And these pawns are super, super rolling over here on this king side. We do see the move knight to h5, and we have actually reached a position. There are two separate moves that are just monstrous in this position. Very simple ideas. If you want to go ahead and pause the video and try to see if you can guess either one of those moves, go ahead and do so. Okay. I think it's very tempting just to be like, I'm going to capture this knight on h5 and I'm going to damage black structure. But the problem is black, as insane as it sounds, is not compelled to capture back. It is actually better to capture on f5 with the queen and put the queen in a really much better position. As crazy as that sounds. Anyways, what I'm looking for actually in the position is if you came up with the move bishop to g4, or if you came up with the move bishop to d5. And I'll explain those two moves. This move is pretty straightforward. One of black's ideas, like I said, is to take queen takes f5 and try to infiltrate and get into the position and get a bunch of pawns. And then you're going to have a really, really strong, you know, pawn chain over here on the queen side. So you're just basically wanting to disallow that move. Also, you are wanting to push f6. This knight is offsides. It's sad. Like, you know, you don't really have to do anything to make it any worse. Pushing f6 with bishop to g4 there, you actually can hold this pawn on e6, and it's not just going to be dropping. So that is definitely one of the main ideas. Another one of the ideas is just to simply say, hey, man, I'm going to go bishop to d5. I'm going to push f6. I'm going to push e7, and I'm just literally going to murder you on these diagonals. And what are you going to be doing? It's crazy because it does suggest queen takes f5, and then e7, and then queen going back to f7. That's really kind of a nightmare, bro. But it's +5 in this position. We actually do not see either one of those. The knight goes to h5, and we actually see bishop taking h5, which does allow that idea, like I was saying before. Queen takes f5, and black is definitely getting into this position. We do see bishop dropping back to g4, and then we do see queen going to b1. This is still very favorable for white, but it's not quite as one as what I was just explaining. King goes to h2. We see queen taking a2, and then we actually see king to g3. And this actually gives the game triple zeros, dead even. You are giving another pawn on b3 with check, and you have to try to find somewhere, you know, for the king to go. We do see king to h4. We got rook taking e6. This is a very legitimate exchange sacrifice. Like I said, you are down a piece, but you have 2 pawns for white and you have 6 pawns for black. So this is definitely very favorable. You're going to force your opponent into a situation where they're going to have to give up some material. So we do see queen going over to g2. We got rook up to e8. We do see queen to c6. Queen goes back to f7. And then we actually see bishop to f6. And it is in this position that Andreikin loses on time. So he definitely has a much better position. He kind of has to find the move h5, which is a really tricky move to meet. And like I said, you have way too many pawns. And even though you are down a piece, you do have a rook and a queen. And you should be able to kind of push this advantage home. So Wesley So definitely let Andreikin weasel out of the situation. But if we go back to move 34, queen takes on a2. It's absolutely essential that you do something along the lines of bishop to f3, going and trying to do that idea like I was telling you guys before, bishop to d5, going against the king. And this definitely just gives you the biggest advantage you could possibly want. So these bishops are actually really some crazy monsters if you allow them to be. So that is that game. I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by, and I'll see you guys next time.